Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Random Trek. I am your intrepid captain, Christopher Ingle, joined as always by my first officer, Commander Brennan, Mystical Mar. Brennan, how we feeling today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
I'm
Today,
feeling of two minds.
two minds on the subject. Interesting. Today,
And
we are
that's a
taking a look
joke.
at. I do get the joke. We are taking a look at Star Trek Voyager, Season 1, Episode 14, Faces. B'Elanna Torres.
hmm
Always an interesting subject in Voyager. What did we think going into this one?
Never seen this one.
You
Um,
didn't. Oh, I
so, so this is a surprise.
I remembered it vaguely, but I hadn't given it a full thorough watch and
Yeah.
till now.
I haven't watched a lot of season one of Voyager.
Yeah, and it's actually a lot shorter than I thought it was, but I forgot the series started in like January. It's like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
mid-season kind of pickup when UPN, this was one of their hallmark
hmm
shows. But anyway, yeah, so let's get into what happens to this episode. Um, so Paris, Torres, and crewman, actually Lieutenant Peter Durst,
Instant
have gone,
Ricky.
Ensign Ricky, if that tells you anything. They're gone missing on a mission. They got captured by the Vidians. I love the Vidians. I really do. Um, so the chief surgeon of the Vidians, Sulan, has
hmm
done something interesting. He took B'Elanna Torres and using technology, split her into two different beings, one completely human and one completely Klingon.
hmm
Interesting. The reason why is he believes that Klingon DNA may hold the key to an immunity for the phage, which is the disease that the Vidians suffer from. I don't think we've really touched on the Vidians before on Random Trek, but essentially they are a species that is affected by this disease. And I would say it's an awful lot like leprosy mixed
hmm
with another kind of deadly disease.
Yeah.
And so this species focuses on harvesting organs and replacing organs left and right. They're very medically advanced and very aggressive about it.
Yep.
Um,
Part of their lineup of season one villains.
yeah, they
And the
do.
DNs and the Kazon and
hmm so he does infect the Klingon Torres with the phage.
mm-hmm.
Um, so he can study her. He wants to study the genetics. So meanwhile, up on the ship, Chakotay, Tuvok, and Harry end up forming a search party. They're gonna go down and find where the crew went. Um, they get discovered by the Vidians and have to emergency beam back to Voyager. Meanwhile, Sulan keeps kind of watching Torres as she does experience some discomfort from the phage, some pain. But she tells him, she's proud of pain, proud as a warrior. Um, and when she was younger, she did a lot of hiding as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, she's half Klingon, half human, and where she lived, um, which we learned from human Torres, um, her and her mother were the only Klingons. And so
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to hide who she was. She didn't want people to notice her ridges. Interesting thing. We'll get back to that in a minute. But so she recognizes that Sulan is attracted to her and she tries to seduce him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
In the way that
um,
a Klingon does.
but his wanting to find the cure kind of overdosed that. So, she doesn't get away. Meanwhile, the human Torres is kept in prison with Paris and Durst. Human Torres is weaker and seems to be a little more timid than her Klingon counterpart, and is also determined to be too ill to work in the mines. When she's brought back to the barracks, she secretly works on a security console trying to contact Voyager, but she gets caught. Um, Now Sulan realizing that she's attracted, or at least he thinks she's attracted to him,
Mhm.
he has Durst taken to Oregon relocation, Oregon reclamation, the Oregon place,
There it is. Mhm.
and kills him and has his face surgically grafted to his own so he looks more
Good
presentable. Little bit
little
of
Hannibal Lecter.
I was gonna say a little Hannibal Lecter, little Buffalo
Yeah.
Bill there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They argue about the she ends up getting out. She escapes and knocks out Sulan, then rescues her human version. They talk with each other about their respective weaknesses and the expulsion from Starfleet Academy. Together, they form a plan. Human Torres says that, if we can shut down the shields, Voyager can transport the ship, and Klingon Torres can deal with the guards as it comes. Chakotay manages to sneak in disguised as a Vidian with the help of the Doctor. Very good makeup, by the way.
Hmm.
And they break into the facility at the same time that Torres deactivates the shield. Klingon Torres sacrifices herself to protect the rest of the crew members from Sulan. They transport back to Voyager. Klingon Torres refuses to help the medical help that the Doctor can offer and wants to die an honorable death, as a Klingon warrior does. But the Doctor explains that human Torres will not survive without the Klingon half. And so, using Star Trek shenanigans, restores them to the original half and half B'Elanna Torres.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, human Torres, though, before admits to feeling incomplete without her Klingon half. When they're restored, she kind of realizes that she's going to be dealing with this inner conflict within herself for the rest of her life.
Hmm.
So, um, what do Roxanne Dawson, what do we think of her dual role portrayal as herself?
I think she really nails it.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see the two halves
Mm-hmm.
separately and individually. And Roxanne is great. I mean, this might be the first episode where we really get deeper into our character because up until this point, we know she's not Klingon. We know she has a chip on her shoulder. She's grumpy and things like that. But this is the first time that we really get to learn why.
Right.
And I think Roxanne does a great job here.
She is absolutely amazing in here. And the Klingon makeup they do for her is really fabulous. You
Hmm.
almost don't recognize her, which is kind of neat. I really like that we don't recognize her at first. And her Klingon side, she talks a little slower,
Yeah.
a little bit more methodical, but with that kind of Klingon um, vernacular that they would use.
Yes.
Um, it's a really well done job. And we also got to give credit to her double. She had a double, Joy Kilpatrick.
Yeah.
Even though she played both, when they were face to face, she refused to do a traditional split screen. So whenever they're on screen together, it's actually her double and her. So they're interacting in person.
Very well done, though.
It makes a difference too.
Yeah.
It's so much better than just acting off of yourself. Um, this is so good, but it reminds me too of a novel that I read in college called Passing. Have you ever heard of it? Um,
Yes, I have actually.
yeah, Pass by Nella Larson, written in 1929.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
long story short, our main character, uh, she's mixed African American, but she passes. She looks white. And so living
Mhm.
in the world at that time, segregation, all of that happens. um, she passes as white and she has to pass. There are things like she'll go into restaurants And they describe moments where she's afraid people are going to notice her. That they don't, but she's afraid of that, and she's living a life hiding who she is. This
Mm,
sounds an awful lot like what B'Elanna is facing in this very story, at least through what she is talking about from her past, where she tried to hide who she is. And now, in a very sci fi way, she's forced to deal with that.
hmm
And the lesson learning being that you have to be able to function with both parts of yourself.
hmm
She needs the strength of the Klingon, but the cool headedness of the human. She needs both to survive.
Yeah.
It's really a fascinating look at this concept of passing and racial identity. Which is
hmm
still to this day a problem in today's society. People who live in areas that are racially charged.
hmm
What do you think, Brendan?
Yeah, no, it's a good comparison. Um, and I think that really the rest of the episode is okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really Roxanne Dawson as exploring the deeper elements of Balana that really works the best here.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a decent episode, but it really you would want to watch it for the exploration of this character.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better first season episodes.
Hmm
And a really good episode that I think gets forgotten a lot in terms of B'Elanna Torres's development as a human, as a person, just a human
hmm
being, because she's half human, half Klingon. But as a person, how she develops. And there have been plenty of times that we've seen that Klingon temper get in the way.
hmm
In the very beginning of this season when she wasn't chief engineer yet and she popped Mr. Carey in the nose. That Klingon temper gets in the
Kind
way.
deserved it, so
Well, he's a jerk, but
yeah.
but still getting to see her have to resolve that and the journey to resolve that throughout to the point that eventually I think when she finally accepts that Tom loves her
hmm
and that she can be loved as she is, I think that becomes the turning point. But this is really a series long arc for her.
hmm
And it's so good. This even had a little reminiscent to me of what would come in Tuvix, only flipped.
Without killing someone.
Yeah, yeah. Although technically, well,
Well,
in this one, the Klingon was dying anyway. So
well,
that
died
did,
in a fight. That's a little bit
yeah, that
different
does.
than
Yeah. I still don't get the technology and how this works and the
neither
integration.
do
I,
I. Yeah.
I, I, I did think that was a little Star Trek technobabble. Like how did you
Yeah.
do that? Is it a clone? Is that what? I
Yeah.
don't get it. But it's the Vidians. We'll just say they're advanced. Oh man. Anything else that you kind of noticed in of noteworthiness in this episode?
No.
Me neither. Not really.
Yeah.
It's a good B'Elanna Torres episode.
hmm
That's the long and short of it. And it's worth it if you're interested in knowing more about her.
hmm
Awesome. All right. Short and sweet. Well, next week we have movie night
Oh,
where we
yes.
will be watching Flight of the Navigator. Love this movie.
I have not seen it in so many years.
But the week after, we will be going into Animation Domination.
hmm
I don't know. I think that's copyrighted actually by Fox. But anyway,
Darn.
let's take a look here. All right. So the randomizer
Begin.
here. Yeah. All right. So for the original animated series, season 1, episode 3, one of our planets is missing. That is the title of it.
Let me bookmark that.
I don't know that one. I'm just bringing up the title here. Then for Lower Decks, season 4, episode 2, I have no bones, yet I must flee.
Ooh.
Okay. And then Star Trek Prodigy, season 2, episode 7, The Fast and the Curious. So good combination here of animation domination. Love it. It'll be good over the next couple of weeks. I have a lot of Star Trek we have to watch now.
Just to get that, I have no bones and I must flee. And the Prodigy episode was in.
Season 2, episode 7, The Fast and the Curious.
Ah,
I,
season
I
two of
want.
Prodigy. We love it.
Oh, I love. Hold on. I'm curious. The Fast and the Curious, not Fast and the Furious. I am actually now curious which one that was. Hold on. There we go. Star Trek. I just kind of want to remember which one was Fast and the Curious.
Well,
Oh,
regardless,
it's after entering the Borg transwarp conduit. Okay, now I know where they're at. Cool. Interesting.
no, that's a good one.
Yes. All right. All right. Brennan, where can the people find you?
Blue Sky at brynmar.bluesky.social or however that thing goes. And you can also find me on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify at Page Turners They Were Not.
You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at cingle1984. And as always, we end every episode. Kapla! And live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.